Have you ever wondered if we could design a society that grows and renews itself? Not like some rigid machine, but more like a living, breathing plant? Well, today we're going to dive into a really fascinating framework that proposes exactly that. It's a kind of blueprint for social progress, and it's inspired entirely by the cycles of nature.
This image right here, this is pretty much the central idea for our entire explainer. The whole vision is for a society that functions in a natural, cyclical, and totally regenerative way, just like the flower you're looking at.
Where did this whole idea come from? Well, it's actually a combination, a synthesis of the work of two really important thinkers, Rudolf Steiner and P.R. Sarkar. Their combined vision suggests that, true social progress isn't just random. It actually comes from a really dynamic balance between our cultural, political, and economic lives.
Okay, so to really get how this works on a practical level, we've got to look at its core components. The entire structure is built on what the theory calls the three rays of human activity. Just think of them as three distinct but deeply interconnected spheres of our lives.
Now this slide here, this really lays out the whole threefold order. Let's just walk through it for a second. You can see the columns. We've got the economic ray, which is driven by individual interest. Then there's the political ray, which is all about addressing our collective needs. And finally, the cultural ray, which is guided by merit. You'll notice each of these rays has its own specific domain, from the stuff they create to the kind of capital they generate. It's basically a detailed map of how all of society's different functions can be organized.
So you've got the political ray, which deals with rights and how we govern ourselves. The cultural ray covers all that good stuff, art, science, and spirit. And then the economic ray is all about production and resources. Together, these three form the core pillars of society.
Now here's the first really crucial rule for a healthy system. These three rays, politics, culture, and economics, they absolutely have to function independently. This is so important because it prevents any one area from completely dominating the others. You definitely don't want the economy dictating what counts as art, or politics crushing free enterprise, for example.
But here's the catch. Independence does not mean isolation. And that brings us to the second crucial rule. While they all operate separately, they have to constantly inform one another. They're meant to be in a dynamic conversation, influencing and balancing each other out without ever controlling each other.
But what's the ultimate point of it all? What is the beautiful flower that this whole system is trying to grow? Well, that brings us to the 5 petals of progress, the ultimate goals of this kind of society.
5 goals are the heart of what's known as the progressive utilization theory, or PROUT for short. These are the principles that are meant to guide the entire system forward. Let's take a look at each one.
The first goal is all about setting up a just economic foundation. Now, this isn't about everyone having the exact same stuff. It's about making sure that the way wealth is distributed and accumulated is fair, and that everyone's basic needs are met.
So once you've got that foundation of fairness, the next goal is all about efficiency and good stewardship. The idea is that society should aim for the maximum utilization of all its resources, not just physical things like land and minerals, but also the mental and spiritual capacities of its people. The key here is to avoid waste in every single form.
Now, this goal might sound a little like the last one, but it's different in a really important way. The last one was about using what we have. This one is about developing what we could be. It's all about creating opportunities so that every single person and the community as a whole can reach their absolute full potential.
So you're maximizing what you have, and you're maximizing what you could become. But that creates a new challenge, right? And that brings us to the fourth goal, balance. There has to be this carefully maintained harmony between how we use our existing resources and how we develop our future potential. It's the principle that keeps the whole system from just spinning out of control.
And that brings us to the fifth and, well, maybe the most crucial petal for long-term survival, adaptation. This principle says that the entire system has to be able to continuously adjust itself based on the changing needs of the time, the place, and the people. This is what makes a society a living, breathing, evolving organism.
So let's bring it all back together. We've got values as our roots, social spheres as our stems, clear rules for the fruits, and these guiding goals as the petals of the flower. What we end up with isn't some static blueprint, but a living, dynamic cycle of renewal.
And here we see the whole picture again, the entire process, from the roots drawing up nutrients to the flower expressing its purpose. It's a continuous loop. The flower produces a seed, which is the potential for the next generation, allowing the whole system to begin again, renewed and ready for new challenges.
So what is it that powers this entire system? Well, what motivates everything are 3 words you've definitely heard before: liberty, equality, and fraternity.
But, and this is important, in this framework, they aren't just some abstract ideals. They have very specific, very practical definitions that basically act as the engine for the whole process.
Okay, first up, liberty. This model makes a pretty bold claim that liberty's true home isn't just everywhere, its proper place is in our cultural and spiritual life. So within this framework, liberty is the absolute engine of human creativity. It's all about our right to our own thoughts, our own unique experiences, and the freedom to invent and discover. This is the world of science, of art, of education, basically anywhere new ideas are born. And this table just lays it out perfectly. Liberty is the guiding feeling of the cultural sphere. The value that matters here isn't money or power, it's merit, how good an idea actually is. And get this, the products, things like art and scientific discoveries, have no ownership. They're seen as gifts to humanity. All right, so if liberty belongs to culture, where on earth does equality fit in? Well, according to this model, its home is the political sphere, the world of our rights and laws. This is the one place where we are all supposed to be completely equal. Now, this model defines equality in a super practical way. This isn't about making everyone the same. Nope. It's about making sure every single person has the exact same access to the things we all share, based on what we need as human beings. Public services, roads, access to information. And this is a really crucial distinction the source makes. This is not the same thing as equity. The whole idea of equity, maybe giving some people more help to make up for their circumstances, that's handled by a totally different part of this model. In the rights sphere, it is pure, simple equality. Everyone gets the same access, period. And this slide just connects all the dots. Equality is the feeling that guides our political lives. The driving value here is need. The products are the services that meet those needs. And the ownership, well, it's common. These things belong to all of us, together. Okay, and finally, let's talk about fraternity. Now this might be the most surprising part of the whole model. It takes fraternity, brotherhood, solidarity, and puts it right at the heart of the one place we almost always associate with pure competition, the economy. So what in the world does an economy based on fraternity look like? Well, it's an economy based on cooperation. It's a system where people are actually working with each other to meet everyone's needs, creating opportunities for one another, and making sure that everybody gets a share of the rewards. And this table completes the whole picture. Fraternity is the guiding spirit of the economic sphere. The value here is interest, what people need and what they're interested in making. The products are commodities, and unlike those ideas in the cultural sphere, these can be owned by individuals. This is where personal property has its natural place. So you see, the big idea here is getting how these three separate spheres, each with its own powerful guiding principle, are supposed to work together to create one healthy society. It's not about one idea winning. It's about each one having the right job to do in the right place. So, if we boil it all down, the key takeaway of this threefold order is pretty simple. A healthy society lets liberty run wild in its cultural life, where the best ideas win. It lets equality be the unbreakable rule of its political life, where everyone's needs are met. And it lets fraternity be the heartbeat of its economic life, where people work with and for each other.
So theory is great, but how does all this translate into actual practice? Well, one of the most concrete proposals here is a complete reimagining of our whole concept of ownership.
This slide just illustrates the model perfectly. It's basically proposing 3 tiers of ownership. First, some things simply can't be owned, like the oceans or a new scientific discovery. They belong to everyone, period. Second, things like essential services and community infrastructure are under common ownership. And then third, individual ownership applies to your personal experiences and non-essential goods, the kind of stuff created through private enterprise.
Okay, so now let's bring it all back to our flower. We're going to see how these 3 rays, driven by those 3 sentiments and guided by this new ownership model, all work together in one complete regenerative cycle of social renewal.
So the cycle kicks off with the political ray. Think of this as the foundation, the new plant, the root, and the leaf. This ray's job is basically to create the structure for everything else to grow. And it does this through common ownership of essential infrastructure, and by making sure everyone has equal access to public resources, which is like the social version of air and sun for our growing plant.
Here, the driving value isn't individual interest, it's collective need. We're not talking about making commodities here, we're talking about providing services. And ownership isn't individual anymore, it's common. This sphere is all about the stuff we share and manage together for the good of the whole community.
The political sphere is like the leaf and root system. It's what draws in all the nutrients, things like education and information, and it provides that stable base that allows the rest of the plant to really thrive. It's the great integrator of the whole system.
So once that foundation is solid, the cultural ray is what allows society to really flourish. This is the blossom and fruit part of the cycle. It's where self-determination and creativity can just bloom, fueled by what the theory calls leisure capital. That's the metaphorical sun that allows us to maximize our human potential.
So the cultural ray is a whole different beast. It's not driven by interest or need, it's driven by merit. Its products aren't things you buy or services you use, they are art and invention. That no ownership idea we talked about, that's the rule here. And the whole thing is built on a foundation of self-determination, the freedom for people to pursue their own potential and just create. And here they are, the blossom and fruit of this entire system. We're talking about breathtaking art, incredible scientific discoveries, world-changing inventions. Ultimately, this is the tangible result of a society that's set up to maximize what people are capable of. So you might be wondering, okay, but where does the energy for all this creation come from? Well, remember that term from earlier, leisure capital? This is where it pays off. That surplus time and energy we generated becomes the fuel for the cultural sphere. When people aren't just trying to make ends meet, they have the freedom to think, to create, to invent.
We don't just consume the art and the inventions that are created. They're not just trophies that we put up on a shelf. They're active agents of change that get folded right back into the system.
Every cultural creation, in some way, becomes a new tool or a new method that the society can then use to move forward. And this is where we see the circle complete itself. Those new inventions become the next generation's means of production. A new discovery in science can open up an entire new industry. The cultural fruit contains the seeds for a more advanced, more productive economic cycle. The progress literally renews itself, starting the whole process over, but on a higher level. Finally, the economic ray comes in to complete the cycle. This is the seed, seedling, and new plant. It's what makes sure the system can continue by promoting equity in economic opportunity and conserving resources. It ensures that individual benefit is always in proportion to the public benefit, which in turn nourishes the soil and water for the next generation of growth. So what exactly is this economic ray? Well, the value that drives it forward is interest. And that doesn't just mean financial interest. It means individual drive, ambition, that push for personal benefit. Its products are commodities, tangible things. And, really important, the ownership here is individual. This is the realm of personal enterprise, and it's all built on a foundation of people having access to natural resources. So what's the ultimate point of this whole intricate system? Well, it's all designed to achieve these 5 guiding principles. First, to provide both equality and equity in how wealth is distributed. Second, to maximize the use of the world's resources. Third, to maximize our human potential. Fourth, and this is a big one, to find a balance between those two, our resources and our potential. And finally, to adapt our productivity to the specific needs of the time, the place, and the people involved. Which leaves us with a final question to really think about. In a world that's facing so many complex challenges, could a blueprint for society, one inspired by the simple, powerful, and regenerative cycles of nature, actually offer us a path toward more balanced growth and renewal?